The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. We have a special guest today, Mr. Patrick Higgins. Welcome, Patrick.
Good morning, Vietnam, and all of the ships at sea, and also all of the offices at the Government Center and the Fall River Housing Authority. It's nice of you to join in.
Yep, and I am CJ, of course. Chip is on secret assignment in Boston.
And unfortunately, this is our last live broadcast,
yes,
which
it is.
CJ will get into in a minute.
This is our last live broadcast at 11 a.m. Our show will now be broadcast at 5 p.m. only on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It will be broadcast live at 11 on YouTube. So if you're not a YouTube subscriber yet, please, you can go to our Facebook page, click the link, and subscribe right away. That way you're notified as soon as we go online. And as you heard it during the introduction, you heard Patrick's YouTube feed kick in. We could hear it in the background.
Yeah, I shut it off.
Yeah, but let's get right to the interesting information of the day. The election.
We have 4 declared candidates who have taken their papers. We have Kyle Riley, who was right there at
8:45, I hear.
8:45, and we had.
They cited him. He hadn't filled out his census form yet.
And Louis Cabral.
Yeah, it's
Peckham Street.
It's Louis something Cabral.
Right? And then we had the mayor in, and we have Mr. Roland Gagnon of 28 Barnaby Street.
Who was the one before Mr. Gagnon?
The mayor.
The mayor.
The mayor.
The mayor.
The mayor's not going to miss an election. He can't get campaign contributions if he's not a candidate.
Well, no, he can get campaign contributions even if he's not a candidate. That's the wonderful thing about OCPF.
I know. I filed my report yesterday, and I'm not even running for anything.
As long as you file your report, you're in good standing. Well, so far it's off to a bang. We didn't hear any of the big contenders, though. We didn't hear about either Will Flanagan or Paul Coogan or Sam. We didn't hear about a little background contender, Erica Scott Pacheco. So it's going to be interesting to see. Erica's interview on WSAR was interesting yesterday.
And she's making the right decision.
Right.
What she said basically on WSAR to Alan Zarek yesterday was she has formed a committee. She has set up her bank account and her OCPF stuff, but she's not going to be candidate number 97 on the ballot and split it 97 ways. She's going to wait and see if there's any contenders who are viable, and if there's not, she will run. But she's not going to be number 12 and blow it up and allow a plurality to allow the incumbent to be reelected after being recalled.
It's interesting because out of the 4 people that took out papers today, there's only really 2 contenders at this point, which is Kyle Riley and
the mayor.
Other than that, I mean, Lou Cabral sunk his ship before he even started. He declared himself a Republican.
And he's 21 years old.
And he's 21 years old. So right there, he's got 2 things against him.
So when is Colin Dyers going to pull his papers?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see when Colin pulls his papers. It'll be very interesting to see if he does that. That's for sure. But it's off to a bang already. So 300 signatures later, and as I said, I don't know if it was good, bad, or indifferent. Joe Good was at Joe Good's from the Herald News, a reporter from the Herald News. She was at elections, videotaping everybody that was pulling papers. So it made it for a very interesting morning over at elections, for sure.
And then we have the situation with the restaurants who don't want to be licensed.
Oh, that's true. We have, 11 restaurants which failed to renew their common Vic's license?
So if you're taking your kids to McDonald's, don't go to President Avenue this weekend because they got the dining room all taped off with a note saying we are redoing our seating. But the truth of the matter is they didn't renew their common victualier's license, so they can't allow you to eat inside, along with Honeydew Donuts on Broadway, Starbucks at the Fall River Shopping Center, Lorenzo's on Robeson Street. Well, they don't do any business anyway. Letty's Bakery on 1481 South Main Street. The 2 Subways on South Main and Plymouth Avenue, and they both pulled their tables. Graham's Hot Dogs on Bedford Street, which I'm going for lunch after to see if I can eat in the dining room. Nutrition on Duval, 1082 Duval Street. They're a brand new restaurant.
Yeah, I don't even know what kind of food they serve.
Florentina Italian Kitchen at 1833 North Main, and then the infamous Gina's Restaurant, who thinks they're connected, because we had reports of people who were eating in the dining room there today. I've already contacted the chairman of the licensing board and the licensing board secretary and said, why are they special?
Well,
so I'm sure they won't be serving lunch or breakfast tomorrow.
Well, you know how it is. Everyone's special.
And you know, the funny thing is, up until 2017, they used to allow restaurants to stay open, even though they had expired licenses. And I went to the licensing board and said, hey, that's not fair. What about the other restaurants who have complied with the law? And number two, what about the liability of the city? If I'm in that restaurant and they don't have a license and I slip and fall, the city's liable. So the licensing board 2 years ago put in a new policy effective last year that said, hey, we're not having special meetings. If you don't have it on time, you're closing. And I'll tell you, John Salino is being very courteous to these 11 people. He also had another 18, including D'Angelo's and Nick's Hot Dogs and a few others, and I don't have the list right in front of me right now, that they had a special meeting last Thursday. So these 11 couldn't get in before the deadline? Come on.
Well,
I wish John had stuck to their guns and said, we're not going to have a special meeting. I'll see you on the 23rd of January. Stay closed for 23 days.
Well, yeah, and this is the problem. You know, we have a licensing board, like many other boards, that don't do their job, okay? Or when they do their job, they make special favors for people. Because that's a special favor. I'm sorry.
Pink Bean was one of the ones last week.
Right. But that was a special favor, to do this soon so they can keep their doors open. And I'm not out there to try to close businesses.
Me neither. But comply with the law.
But the law
just
is
like
the
the
law.
open meeting law.
Right.
Comply with the law.
And
Very
the funny thing was, you put a post up on Facebook about that, and somebody said, "What's the big deal?" The problem is that it is a big deal. It's the law. And if you don't comply with the law, where does it stop there? Okay, the hell with liquor licenses.
Why bother stopping at stop signs?
Right. You know, the hell with liquor licenses, the hell with stop signs, the hell with red lights. That, you know. Who cares about driving down a one-way street? I'm going to go down anyways. The law doesn't apply.
People do that on the highway now.
Exactly. So it makes for an interesting time, to say the least. But, you know, it would be nice, and this is why people get away with what they get away with, because people like the people on the licensing board don't stick by their guns. They don't turn around and say, you had until December 31st, you didn't get it, you'll have to wait until the next meeting of the licensing board. They don't get paid enough money to be holding special meetings in a month. You know, and everyone keeps thinking they're supposed to get paid more and more money every time you turn around, which is not the case. Which is not the case. What are you looking up now?
The ones that got in under the line after the December meeting.
Oh.
And they're connected people, too. You got New Boston Bakery, Nick's, Florentina's, Phoenix, Pink Bean, Lizzie Borden, Subway on Mariano Bishop Boulevard, Papa John's, Domino's, D'Angelo's, and JJ's Hot Dogs. I mean, they did them a favor by holding it on December 27th.
And when you start looking at some of those names, Pink Bean is the mayor's favorite place to go.
I think he's an investor.
I think he's something, because he's done us a lot of money there.
New Boston Bakery, same thing.
New Boston Bakery has, the owner of New Boston Bakery is on the Historic Commission or the CPA Commission, one of those. But he's on a board here in the city. And
Nick's Jr., they didn't even have when they first opened. I mean, that's like the second time for them.
It just, you know, people say, you know, you're being
and
petty.
You know, and you know, just to set the record straight, these people were all notified in October or September that hey, they expired December 31st. After that, you can't open.
Right.
And if you don't, we're not going to have a special meeting. And then they're being generous and having special meetings. But I'll be there Monday night to discuss these 11 people, especially if I find any more open over the weekend.
Yeah, well, it's going to be very interesting.
I think anybody who's open Monday night should be, the renewal should be denied.
It would be interesting, wouldn't it?
But
then you're closing a business, and then people are going to say,
no, they can still have the yellow tape on the McDonald's. You know, they can still be open for to-go orders.
Drive-through. Drive-through doesn't get stopped. Well, as we opened the show with, after our announcement that we will no longer be on live on Channel 95 at 11 a.m., we'll be on at 5 from now on. we went right away into elections with 4 candidates so far, and the election's set for March 12th. That was a fast meeting that was set at.
That was the quickest city council meeting I've ever seen in my life. And that includes congratulations to Cliff Ponte and Pamela Libby LeBeau for being reelected to the leadership.
Yeah, there was no change in leadership at all.
I mean, you know, and Steve Camara, I mean, what was he thinking? He was going to get a second vote? I mean, everybody else was voting for Cliff. It's in the middle of a recall. They don't want any changes. And Steve's like, I'll vote for myself, see if anybody else will jump on that board. And I like Steve, but, you know.
Well, you know, and people were online, you know, on social media saying that the only city council worth anything is Steve Camara, because Steve Camara was working on the delay tactics. He was working, and he said it clearly. He says, I could object to this and delay the process further. But he didn't.
I'll tell you what.
Which I think was a smart move, because had he objected, I think he would have never gotten
I think this would be his
reelected.
last term of office if he had objected to this one.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I mean,
I wouldn't pull papers for September if I was Steve, if I had objected to this one.
yeah, because it's
Because the rest of the city council should really think about their future endeavors as it comes to pulling papers for September.
you know, when they were doing the charter, one of the things that kept coming up was putting term limits in the charter.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that they should have done that. But of course, Mike Mioza didn't want to do that.
Well, the other thing about the charter, and you will agree, nobody thought that thing had a prayer of
No, nobody
passing.
thought it had a prayer,
So none
no.
of us were paying a lot of attention. Yeah, we went and gave some input, but we weren't watching that thing meticulously like we should have.
Right.
And then election day, I still believe people thought they were voting for a new charter school.
I think so too.
And, you know, and it's the law of the land, and I like some parts, I don't like some parts, but you know what? It's the law.
Right, and
So
again,
we have to comply.
and the thing is that on this show we always argue and scream about the fact that it's so ambiguous you don't know what the law really is.
Well, the
Because
truth of
everything
the matter is
subject
the
to
city has
interpretation.
never published the charter. Because
No,
all
it's-
we got was that preliminary report before the election. The city has never
It's
actually
actually published on
the
the-
charter.
it's published
I mean,
in
it's
the
part
city-
of the ordinances, but I mean, as far as going in and getting the charter where it says on page 42 is
Right.
recalls, they haven't done that yet.
Yeah,
Hopefully
no,
the
they
next
haven't.
mayor or the current mayor will take that as a suggestion and make that change.
Well, I think that's left up to the city clerk, because in the charter it says that the copies of the charter will be made available upon demand.
Yeah, and they don't have any copies.
Right.
They got that published invitation to vote for it.
Right.
With the report of the minority and the majority.
Right. Which is kind of, but again, as I was saying about the term limits, Mike Miles didn't want it, because you got to remember, Mike Miles has been an elected official.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to put term limits on himself if he decided to run for mayor or for city council again.
Or school committee.
Or school committee or any elected office here in Fall River.
Well, that's the 3 elected offices in Fall River.
Right. Well, you know, and I wonder, you know, this was something I was thinking about the past couple of weeks. Do our recall provisions apply to state representatives?
No.
I know. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad that, you know, if we don't like our state representative, we can't recall them?
But yeah, we recall them every 2 years at the ballot box when they run unopposed.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. They run unopposed, so they only got to vote for themselves. And
Unless you're Carol Fiola, and then you have a perennial candidate every 2 years. Dr. Steinhoff.
I don't think Dr. Steinhoff's going to run anymore.
I think he will.
He might, but I
He's
don't
got,
think so.
he's got all his signs already printed. He's got everything in place. I mean, it doesn't cost a lot once you have all your signs printed.
True.
Just about, you know, you got to knock a lot of doors, and he's pretty slim. He does do a lot of walking and knocking a lot of doors.
Yes, he does.
But he can't get the vote out for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I really don't. I mean, he's a nice guy, too. Plus, I know what it is. He's a dentist. Nobody likes their dentist.
Maybe he should have a low-income dental clinic on Saturdays, and then he'll get all those people as voters.
Yeah, maybe they'll come out and
and
vote.
they'll actually come out and vote.
The problem is, in his area, there is a lot of low-income people.
Well, the problem is, you know, yeah, that doesn't matter. You know, I'll give you free dental cleaning every 6 months, providing you show me your voter registration card.
Yeah, there you go. That's how. Hey, it's like a chow mein sandwich, right?
Hey, you know, Leo makes a good sandwich.
I wouldn't know, and I don't want to know. Well, as we all know, there was a terrible tragedy that occurred
Oh my God, that fire!
on New Year's Day, and the city is now organizing a resource fair, and that will be held on Tuesday, January 8th. That's next Tuesday, from 1 to 7 p.m. at Government Center to help the 36 families displaced by the Four Winds apartment complex fire, to help them find housing, emergency funding, and other necessities. Free transportation will be provided to displaced residents without access to a vehicle.
Yeah, some of them don't even have their car keys. They left them inside.
Yeah, they left them inside. And right now they're under a pile of rubble.
I'll tell you, if you don't have tenant insurance and you don't have renters or tenant insurance to cover yourself after that fire, then there's no hope for you. I mean, I pay $17.06 a month, or $17.08, or it might be 27. I think it's $27.08 I pay a month. And I'll tell you something. My building has sprinklers, thank God. But up on the 14th floor, that's a lot of steps for me to walk down. And I can't carry 7 computers and 3 laptops and the TV. And, you know, if there's a fire, I've got coverage, just like your car insurance, you know.
Yeah, and again, it's not very expensive. And if you get your
It's a cheap investment.
If you get your renter's insurance from the same company that provides your car insurance, you get a lot of discounts.
Yeah, I mean, $1 a day.
Yeah, it's $1 a day.
So you miss one Dunkin' Donuts coffee a day, you only have 5 instead of 6.
Well, actually, Dunkin' Donuts coffee is almost $3, so.
I meant Cumberland Farms. I'm sorry, they're 89 cents.
Coffee. Cumberland Farms coffee is really good too, so don't stop.
It's the same company. It's the same coffee.
Well, it's not the same coffee.
It's the same coffee manufacturer. The blend's a little different, but.
I remember the days when Dunkin' Donuts used to grind their own coffee beans. They don't do that anymore.
I'll tell you, T&T Hot Dogs in Somerset does grind their own coffee beans in the restaurant.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But you're not a coffee drinker, are you?
No, I am not.
I didn't think so. So.
Otherwise, I'd be stuck at Starbucks with the rest of the cult.
So.
You ever watch everybody at Starbucks when they get their coffee? I mean, they hold it like this. Because they don't want to spill a drop. And of course, for $9 a coffee, I don't want to spill a drop either. And now they can't sit in the dining room, so it's even worse. They don't want to spill it on the way out.
Exactly. But back to this resource fair. If you need a ride, you can call the mayor's office at 508-324-2600. I'm not going to say by email because these people probably don't have a computer to email them.
Although it is available.
Although it is available.
I'll bet they got their smartphones out, though.
That's true. And they can call, as I said, they can call the mayor's office to make a reservation for a ride.
I'll tell you one thing, though. That fire was a tragedy. You know, not even being able to go in and your high school diploma's gone, your college diploma, if you went to college, I mean, that's gone forever. You know, I really think that the school department, and I don't know if Fall River, Somerset, Swansea, Westport, if they don't, they should. Every year when they sign all the original diplomas, they should probably keep a color PDF copy of it on storage. So if something like this fire happens, somebody can say, hey, is it possible to get a copy of my diploma from 1997? And they just pull up the PDF and print it in color and go, here you go.
Well, the problem is back in 1970-something and 1980-something, there wasn't a lot of PDF files.
No, but I'm saying, you know, it'd be a good thing to do 2019 on, you know, PDF to color after it's signed, because I'll tell you, I've lost my high school diploma. I have no idea where it is. And the 2 people who signed my diploma are both dead.
Well, I'm sure you can get it signed.
Yeah, all you got to do is go to Chicago, and you know the dead are available.
The dead vote, so why not? The dead are voting in Fall River too. But to get back to some of these resources, Catholic Social Services will be on hand at the resource fair to help fire victims find and pay for new housing. The organization has funding to provide rental assistance such as first and last month's rent and security deposit up to $4,000.
That's a good deal.
That's a good deal. The city is aiming to centralize the emergency response after an overwhelming number of people launched initiatives to help victims of the fire. He directed those who wish to donate money to fire victims to do so through the Fall River Firefighters Wives Association, a registered nonprofit. Donations can be made through the online fundraiser accessible at GoFundMe, created by the Firefighter Wife Association, which can be accessed through the group's Facebook page. Checks may be mailed to the Firefighters Wives Association, P.O. Box 423, Somerset, Mass. 02726. Boy, they couldn't even make the Firefighters Association in Fall River.
The reason is Somerset and Swansea, the P.O. boxes are available 24 hours a day.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So, Fall River's not. So
Right.
that's why I have my P.O. box in Swansea. I can go at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Donations of gift cards and toiletries may be dropped off during business hours at the city's Community Development Agency. That's in room 414. clean clothes, new clothes, and toiletries may be dropped off at the Greater Fall River Recreation located at 45 Rock Street. That's the old courthouse for people who don't know what it is.
I did watch the press conference with the mayor on this, and he did say that a locksmith service, and I don't know if it's all of them or just one, but they're going to have locksmiths available who have offered to donate their services to make keys to anybody who lost their keys in that fire who don't have car keys to their cars. I mean, they're not the apartment keys anymore, obviously, but the car keys that can get expensive.
Those keys can be very expensive.
And, you know, some of those chip fobs and those wholesale are like $100 for the blank.
Yeah,
so,
when you consider the fact...
And you got a locksmith who's willing to help you out because of the tragedy and give you a key that costs them $100 before they even make it. I mean, that's a good deal.
Plus,
I wish I knew who the locksmiths were, because they definitely need a kudos, because they're doing a great job.
And the other thing is that to make keys from those VIN numbers takes a special group of people.
Yeah, you have to be a certified locksmith.
Yeah, you have to be.
You have to be a member of Associated Locksmiths of America, which all three are. Salvers and Smith and Coles are all members of ALA, and you know, they can get the codes from the VIN and make the keys. Also, any of the dealers, but they probably don't have the titles to the car because they may have burned up too. Yeah. So hopefully Alan Sylvia and Carol Fiola can introduce a special bill to allow the registry to waive the fees for anybody who was a victim of that fire.
Some people
obtain duplicate registrations and titles for free.
Some people lost their licenses in that because they were, you know, they left
Same
all
thing.
that stuff. Yeah, they left all that stuff in their
house.
And
hopefully Alan and Carol and Paul Schmidt, they can get together and file legislation to allow any resident of that building to get duplicate license, registration, titles, and waive the fee as a result of that terrible tragedy. Terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't something that people were planning for.
And I was watching the Channel 7 live feeds, and they had the helicopter, the plane. The back of that building was all woods. You couldn't get back to the back of the building.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing as far as future development, because I'll tell you, I think that maybe you're going to see some changes in the way buildings are approved to make sure there's enough room to get fire trucks behind buildings instead of against the woods like that.
Yeah, it was just a bad situation. You know, for a building to be condemned and knocked down within 24 hours after the fire happened, and the fact that the fire department was still dispatching vehicles there because there was still fire burning underneath the rubble.
Yeah, because you had those voids.
Right.
You know, like Chip was saying the other day, you got those hot spots inside that you can't get to unless you tear it apart to get into the thing.
Right.
And that's mainly the reason why they tore it down so quickly. But, you know, I hate the fact that they couldn't even get back into the building for nothing. I mean, some of these people went out in their pajamas, and, you know, the only place they're allowed to go now is Walmart.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, and that was another thing that was asked for was gift cards, because a lot of people got gift cards over the holidays.
Yeah.
For restaurants, for
absolutely,
you know,
the
Walmart,
gift cards,
for Target.
Yep.
You know, if they want to turn those into a recreation as well,
or CDA,
yep, they'll be more than happy to accept them. You know, it's interesting because in Fall River, the people of Fall River always pull together in times of crisis and tragedy.
I think the last big fire like that was what, Notre Dame Church?
I believe so. Yes.
Or Arlen's?
Nope, it was Notre Dame. Arlen's was before Notre Dame. That was the last big conflagration that the city has had. Me using big words.
Now, can you explain that for the third graders who are watching us?
That's big fire.
Huge.
Huge.
As Donald Trump would say, that was huge.
That was huge. So, the state legislature, the leadership's still intact. Same people. Bob DeLeo, Speaker of the House.
He hasn't gotten indicted yet.
I guess not. I guess he's going to be one of the few. And Senate President Karen Spica.
You know, I thought George Kevorkian back in the day put in term limits for the Speaker.
No, I don't think so.
I think George Kevorkian.
Because
I think DeLeo had it changed and removed.
The Supreme Judicial Court ruled that term limits can only be instituted by constitutional convention.
Oh.
Because back in 1996, I believe it was, the voters approved term limits on the ballot. And the state legislature, with the help of the women's
League of Women Voters.
The League of Women Voters turned around and fought it, and the Supreme Judicial Court, of course, sided with the
The other
governor
branch,
and
with their co-branch.
right, with the governor and the legislative branch of government, and said, no. It can only happen by constitutional convention. But how do we as the citizens have a constitutional convention? So far, the only people that can initiate one is the Senate and the House.
Yep.
So that denies the people their rights.
Speaking of the governor,
Go ahead.
we now have a governor who receives a housing allowance.
$65,000 a year.
I'll tell you, it's a lot cheaper than running the governor's mansion in Mississippi,
Yeah,
even with the inmates.
But he's still getting $180,000 for pay.
So when is he going to get the inmate work detail to work at his house like they do in other states to maintain the governor's mansion?
Well, he doesn't have a governor's mansion. That's going to pay off his mortgage for his house. You know? And that's the thing.
The most popular Republican governor in the country.
Yeah, and actually in Massachusetts, he's a popular.
That's a rare bird.
Yeah, not too many popular Republicans in Massachusetts. And that's the problem with Massachusetts. They don't even wait for a presidential election to start calling the votes. Before the votes are even counted, they say Massachusetts for the Democrats.
Yep.
It's automatically for the Democrats. It's a blue state, no matter what. And that doesn't speak highly for Massachusetts. When you can be so predictable, that's scary. And this is why we have a government that we have. I mean, you just look at the U.S. House. They just got an influx of about 100 women now serving in the U.S. House. And one of them, a young, I think she was Hispanic.
Is that the one from New York?
Yeah, I believe so. Cortez, is that her name?
Yep, something like that.
Yep. She turned around and used the F-bomb on the mayor.
And then the Muslim.
On the president.
And then the Muslim from Michigan has already said, okay, it's time to start the impeachment proceeding.
Right, and she was wearing her hijab.
Yep.
So it's very interesting when they turn around and they say we are not a country of the immigrant or whatever.
You have to remember one thing, though. The average age in the Congress has just dropped by 10 years.
Yeah, it's true. Because we've got a whole bunch of young women who are now serving.
So now the median age of the Congress has dropped by 10.
I saw a picture this morning, when I was reviewing before coming on the show, of the House and the Senate. And the House had a whole bunch of women in their picture.
Yes.
The Senate had very few.
Yes.
Very few. And this is what people like candidate Erica Scott Pacheco talk about, is that there are no women on the school committee. There's one woman on the city council. We've never had a woman mayor. And we have no immigrants. We have no Cambodians. We
don't even have them on appointed boards, never mind.
Exactly. We don't even have them on appointed boards. We have, no Hispanics. We have no Hispanics on any boards. No.
It's a shame that Ricky Tite hasn't been appointed to something.
Well, everyone has their thing, But it's just going to be very interesting to see what change a new mayor, if we get one, brings to the city of Fall River.
It's also going to be interesting to see who pulls papers for the city council and school committee races come September. Because you're looking at what, May, April, when those papers come out?
Right.
I mean,
they're going to come out right after
the election.
Right after the election, and then the new mayor or the existing mayor is going to have to take out papers to run again. So, and by the way, just for people to know, the mayor spent $10,000
on his recall lawyer.
Out of his campaign funds, not out of anything else, but out of his campaign funds. So
I'll tell you very honestly, he did spend $10,000 to retain the recall lawyer, but I do not see the mayor or the recallers going to court to stop this recall. I don't see any objections being filed. I think that at this point it's going to be, let's see what happens March 12th.
It's going to be interesting to see, as you said.
Because I don't think they want to spend if he spent $10,000 on a lawyer, I don't think he wants to spend the extra money to litigate it.
Yeah, it's going to come out of his campaign account. Okay, everybody, have a great weekend. Remember, stay angry, and we'll be back on the air Monday at 5. And we're live on YouTube at 11. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.